Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning or good afternoon, listeners. It is about 1 p.m. on November 11th. It's snowing here in Chicagoland area, which honestly makes it feel like December 11th. Usually we don't have this much snow on the ground in Chicago in November. It's quite irritating. I can wear a winter outfit with the best of them, and I grew up in Minnesota where this is what November was like, but I guess I've grown used to having a month or so where the weather's nippy enough to make your nose cold, but you don't have to worry about your feet getting wet from snow. So it's annoying to have snow on the ground in November. Oh well. Enough complaining about the weather. Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver. If this is your first time listening, the premise of this podcast is I record myself while I'm walking home from the train or walking around. It's 15 to 20 minutes or so, and I don't have a set of topics. Today I am going to do one of my Here's Some Games I Just Played episode. It's Shooting from the Hip, double feature. I was thinking about this. I've done Shooting from the Hip where I just do a single episode talking about a game for the whole time. And I do Triple Shot often where I have 3 games to talk about. But today I just have 2. I have recently played Nanty Narking as well, but I did talk about that in the previous episode a little bit, so I don't feel like you need to hear my initial thoughts again. That said, this was a great weekend where we played lots of good stuff, and so I managed to play a couple new things. So I'm going to do 2 new games. I might add in a couple other comments about games. We'll see what happens depending how long it takes me to talk about them. So the 2 games I want to talk about today are Roam, that's R-O-A-M, from Red Raven Games and Ryan Lockett, and the other game is Res Arcana from Tom Lehman, and I can't remember the name of the publishing company. It's not one I've heard of before. So Roam is a 2 to 4 player game. Actually, I think there is a solo mode, but generally a 2 to 4 player game. It's got a spatial component. Not sure what I would call it. I guess it's area majority. And point collecting. So the way the game works, you are a group of people exploring a place. I don't know. It's an abstract game. The theme is really meaningless, although the art is beautiful, as one could expect from any Ryan Lockett game. The way the game works is you have a set of 6 cards that make a grid of spaces in the middle of the board. And the grid of spaces are covered. Some of them have coins. A lot of them are blank. The idea is on your turn, you have cards that depict a shape of squares. So like you might have an L that's 3 squares in a kind of corner shape. You might have, there's a variety of shapes that you could start with. And on your turn, you're going to activate one of those explorers by taking some wooden squares that you have and placing them on the board in the shape as depicted on your player's card. You're not allowed to rotate the shape, and it has to be oriented toward you. So as you're sitting around the table, your L and my L will take up different spots on the grid, because my L will have, say, the long flat part at the bottom of it toward me, and yours would have it toward you. So you are going to place your shape on the board, and if you cover up any coins, you get those coins. If in placing the shape you complete the 6 squares on one of the cards, so each card has 6 squares, there's 36 squares on the whole grid. If in completing your shape you complete the grid of you fill up a card, then that card is scored by someone. If whichever player has the most squares on that card gains the card to their group, and they get the points that are on it. The points on those cards vary from 2 to 3. I think there are a few 1-point cards, not many. And then that card gives you an extra action you can take with like a different shape that you make on the board when you play it. So the idea is you're using your characters to fill up this board and gain more characters and gain more coins. And then you can also use the coins to buy these treasures, which give you special abilities and points. So it's not a set collection game. I guess it's a little bit of an engine builder in that you're collecting cards that give you stronger moves or more options in how you would close out the board. It's interesting. Not very much like any other game I've played. It's a pretty unique feel. It takes about 20 minutes to play. Pretty fun, really thinky. Definitely in the filler space in terms of length and depth, but a pleasant sojourn into that space. So, well worth a try if you get a chance. I really enjoyed it. The other players that I played with all really liked it. Even one player didn't do well at all. They found it difficult to engage with the puzzle, but they still had a good time and enjoyed the art. There's lots of little stories on the cards. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that and look forward to playing it again sometime. I did not buy it. It's a friend who bought it. One of my pals buys most of the Red Raven games, so I don't buy them. I let him do that, and then I play it when he brings it. But it was really fun, and I look forward to playing it again. The other game I got to the table this week was Res Arcana. Now, you'll remember that from a number of Top of the Stack updates in which I failed to play it. I picked up Res Arcana in late August and have been itching to play it ever since. But the rulebook eluded me a little bit. I found it surprisingly challenging to understand in my head. And so because I couldn't wrap my mind around it, I couldn't really teach it. Got to the point where I'd read the rulebook several times and I even got it out at a game night and realized I didn't feel comfortable teaching it, and so we had to put it away. And then I got it out another time by myself and played two-handed for a while until I understand the way the game flowed. And now I was able to teach it, and we played a 3-player game. And now that I've played it once, I think I can teach it very easily next time, and it'll go well. It's a really interesting game. So Res Arcana is a engine builder. So you're accumulating a set of cards that will generate resources which you can use to buy points. And the game goes until somebody has 10 points. And then at the end of each round, you check for who has 10 points, and the person who has... If anyone has 10 points, the game ends, and whoever has the most points wins. So you could have more than one person have 10 points at the end, or like what happened in our game, one player got to 10 points and then triggered a card that let them check for victory immediately, and they were the only ones who had 10 at that point, so they won. Even though I was set up to gain like 4 more points that turn, I would have ended with 13 or maybe 14 points, depending how I did. So that was a really interesting aspect of the game. The way the game works, you get a character card that gives you a power, and you get 8 cards. That's it. There's no buying of cards. Once you've played, then there's a drafting thing. They don't recommend you draft on your first play because you don't know how the game works yet. So the first play, you just take what you get. And it might be a little unfair, but who cares? It's a first play. But the idea is that when you start, you get 2 character cards. You get to pick one of them to keep, and you get 8 cards. And once you've played before and you know how to play, then it's a draft. You get 8 cards. You keep one. You pass to the other players. You keep one from that hand. Pass back and forth until you've got your 8 cards in your hand, and then you pick which of your characters you want to keep. Then you put your character in play, and the game starts. So each round, there's a resource phase and then an action phase. In the resource phase, any cards that get you resources will do that. And there's a lot of cards that will generate resources onto themselves. And then in the next resource phase, you can take resources off. So a lot of times during the action phase, you'll make resources, which you then get access to in the next round. So you collect your resources and then you take actions. And there's a variety of actions. They're all very simple. Play a card, discard a card to collect resources, use an action on a card. Those are basically your 3. Most of the actions on the cards also involve tapping the card, or tipping it, I guess is the term they use there, but it's tapping if you know your Magic game. And once you tap the card, then no powers on it are available to you anymore. But some of the cards also have ongoing powers that you can use as many times as you want as your action, as long as the card is untapped. So some of them will allow you to change one resource into another, or like for instance, one of the cards that I got in our game allowed you to change 5 death resources into a point. And you could do that as many times as you want. So I kind of built up an engine in which I accumulated all these death resources, and then I used that card to turn them into points. And so each round I was probably accumulating 15 death resources. And so I had, over the course of the game, picked up 9 points that way. On the next turn that round I was going to get 3 or 4 more. But one of the other players ended the game with a different card. So you're generating resources. You use those to put out your cards, which then get you more actions that will generate more resources. Then some of the cards will also generate points in various ways. The main way you get points is to buy there are these central cards, these monuments, which are sort of very powerful things that also get you points. And then there are places of power. There are 5 of these cards that have special powers on them, and they're very expensive to buy, but once you buy them, they become the engine by which you're going to get your points and win the game. It was really fun. I liked the way the game worked a lot. The iconography takes a fair amount of effort to read. Tom Lehman, the creator of Race for the Galaxy, is no slouch when it comes to making games with lots of iconography, and this game does not back away from that idea. But I think it's relatively intuitive. Each player gets a little card that explains all the icons. There are a couple that are a little confusing, and we had to work as a group to puzzle through them. But I think even by your 3rd play, you're going to be completely set in terms of understanding the iconography on the cards and being able to play them well. So from that perspective, I think the game holds up really nicely. The thing that makes it so interesting is the fact that you only have 8 cards. So the way the game works, you put a card into play, it's in play. At the end of your turn, you get to draw 1 card. But unless you have something else that lets you draw more cards, you're not getting a whole bunch of cards each time. You're not refilling your hand. It's not a deck builder. You're only drawing 1 card around unless you really go out of your way to draw an extra. But you can, anytime you like, discard a card to get 2 resources. So toward the end of the game, once I had my engine going, I was just discarding the card I would draw. I draw a card, I discard it to get 2 resources, which I would use to fuel the engine for another round. But the thing that's so satisfying about it, at least it was on the first play, is the fact that it's such a tight group of cards. You only have 8 cards. You're only going to use them for a little bit. And I think if it were a game that was 2 hours long, it would be irritating because you run out of things to do. But about the time that you feel like, oh, I've seen everything this 8 cards can do, well, the game's over. It's about, it took us probably 40 minutes to play, but we were all new to it. I think if it were new people or experienced people, I bet it's a 20-minute game. Especially once you've all played a few times. The game only comes with, 40 cards or something, so it wouldn't take long to know all the cards. Just people would say, I'm playing the Prism, and you're like, okay, I know what that does. I understand what you're doing with it. That said, we played a 3-player game and we only saw 24 of the cards, and there may be 60 cards. I don't know. There's a bunch. So even in a 4-player game, you're going to see half the cards. I think there's probably 64. So in a 4-player game, you see 32 of them. So from that perspective, it's a really interesting game, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I guess recommended. Res Arcana from Thomas Lehman. One of the other games we played this weekend was Sagrada. It's a favorite of mine, as you know. I think this is many plays. It's our 17th play that we've documented in the box top. So it's probably 20 to 25 plays for me. At Gen Con, I picked up the Passion expansion, which adds two things. It adds inspiration cards, which are a card you get that is an individual player power that you can use during the game. And that allows you to do something special. Usually you have to spend those little clear gems to do it. There's another module, the glass or clear glass module, in which there's an extra set of dice, these sort of frosted white dice that you can use that don't count as any color, or actually they count as every color. So when you put them in, they never break adjacency rules or placement rules. They count as whatever color you need them to when you place them on the board. They count whatever color you need them to in terms of placement bonuses at the end. So they're kind of wild colors. You have to pay to use them, and you only can have one per game, and only one person per round can buy them. So it's a little bit complicated, but it's pretty cool, and it's a fun way to make the game. Like I've found the 2 times we've played it, it makes Sagrada very thinky as a game, very thoughtful in ways that it isn't just in the base game, or not quite as much. So pushes it up to that next level. Well, that's about it for me. I hope that you are having a pleasant day, and I look forward to next time we talk. Hop over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know what you've been playing lately. Have you tried Rome or Res Arcana? Head over there and let me know. Until next time, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.